So hello again, everyone, and welcome to the next in our series of COVID-19 webcasts that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly, whilst many of us are working from home. And you'll see today that I'm joined by three travel agents, so people right at the sharp end. I've got Simon Morgan, who's the Chief Executive of the Tailor Travel Group. I've got Steve Witt, who is the co-founder of Not Just Travel. And I've got Paul Hardwick, who is the Commercial Director at Fred Olsen Travel. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for sparing the time. I say this to everybody, you are so busy, and that's absolutely true. So to give us half an hour, we're really grateful. Let's get straight to it, because I'd love to know what you are experiencing, what the last 3 weeks has been like for each of your businesses. Maybe if we start with you, Simon. We've written quite a few stories, actually. You were quite early to make some decisions, I think. So tell us what happened and where you are now, and then we'll move on to the others.
Well, from the very beginning, we noticed cancellations and concerned clients on Far East bookings. So that sort of set it on our radar. And then when we started seeing Italian bookings being cancelled, we could see that this was going to really be a big situation throughout the whole of Europe. So we, pushing fast forward to now, are 85% furloughed. I've got a response team of just 15 people out of the normal 100 staff, looking after the cancellation, rebooks and refunds of 25,000 passengers. Yeah, so we're having good fun in Wales. Absolutely,
and we'll come back to and pick up on lots of those points in a minute. But Steve, you've got a slightly different situation, because your team are all at home anyway. It's a home working business. So explain what you've been through.
Yeah, so we've got hundreds of home workers all across the country, plus a head office team of 47. So we furloughed 2/3 of the head office team. The home workers, obviously, they're at home, but all of a sudden they found that their income's been decimated, I guess is a good description. So we've been trying to give them focus, try and keep them busy, try and give them direction as to how to look after customers, because no one's obviously experienced anything like this before, but trying to communicate with that many people on a daily basis, keep giving them instructions, keep moving the goalposts, and keeping motivation going in a very difficult time is probably the biggest challenge that we face at the moment, just keeping everyone.
And just remind us, Steve, Simon's got 100 staff. How many agents have you got in Not Just Travel?
Over 400.
Right, okay, all right. Let's come back again in a second, but just to bring Paul in, 13 branches, is that right? And how many staff?
We've got 14 branches, so we have about 60 staff between those. We then have a corporate travel team, our head office, and then we also have 63 home workers at the moment as part of the Go Cruise and Travel franchise that we operate. Again, like Steve, we're about 2/3 furloughed at the moment. Retail-wise, we've pretty much kept on one member of staff per branch that's working from home, managing their business. We've reduced hours, so we're only a Monday to Friday operation now, to try and offer the best service we can in the restrictions that we've got. And then we've kept a team on to continue with e-commerce, so we're doing regular e-blasts. We've got our administration team still running for our home workers, and then obviously our accounts team are incredibly busy trying to process refunds and adjustments and that kind of stuff as well. But it's almost, we've probably got twice as much work as we had before this all started, but obviously on a hugely reduced team, so it's just trying to manage that workload.
Yeah, well, lots of people have said, actually, although the furlough scheme is a lifeline very much from the government, but it doesn't really work for travel, because it's not like you can just shut your doors physically, but you're still working so hard behind the scenes. So it's obviously been helpful, but has the government support been enough, do you think?
I think personally that there's room for further support from the government. I don't know if you guys saw the article that the tourism minister put in place for DMOs, destination management operators, where they're actually supporting crucial business support workers. So I think that ABTA would hopefully be lobbying to try and get some support for the teams that we have left in situ, who are definitely not sitting making money for us. They are processing refunds and battling client arguments with tour operators. So it would be great to see further action, and I think it's necessary to support the majority of the trade.
So yeah, so reclassifying travel agents, perhaps not as key workers, but having a, whatever you say, crucial workers and
yeah,
special.
I think the tourism minister put it very simply. These are people that are crucial to the business, crucial to the pipeline of the client funds. We'd have a holy car crash if we all closed our doors and went home all on furlough. We wouldn't be able to service the bookings, the refunds, the finances. We just all return to a ton of chargebacks. So these are essential services that we're providing the public. So I think the government does need to look further at the tourism industry and not just the domestic tourism industry.
Is that something you would agree with, Steve and Paul? Maybe Steve, come to you.
I was pleasantly surprised by the level of support the government gave for business as a whole. I think travel seems to sit outside of the support because, like Paul said, we've never been busier, but you just don't get any income, do you? So that's the biggest challenge. We fall in that gap of there's all this work to do, but there's zero incoming in, and furloughing is really designed, and it assumes you've got no work to do, hence you can be furloughed. And that's the same for our home workers. They fall between all the gaps of most of the support because they've either not been in business long enough, they're self-employed, or a lot of their income was based on bookings, which were future commissions. So there's a lot that could be done to help the travel industry. I think the government's obviously got a challenge with time. They're doing a lot. Priority's got to be healthcare, but there's a lot to be done, and this whole world relies on travel, and I think they just haven't probably realised that just yet.
No.
Okay, Paul, similar view from you?
Yeah, very much so. I think it was really difficult when, until 3 weeks ago, I don't think I'd ever heard the phrase furlough before, and suddenly it's every other word that I mention. Trying to go through and almost get the business back to the bare bones that we could deal with, because it was so vital to utilise that scheme at this time was so important. Huge amount of guilt from the staff that have been furloughed for their colleagues. I think that was the biggest thing that I got across, was they completely understand what was happening. It wasn't that they felt bad about what we were trying to do, but they actually felt bad from the people that were left in the business, that they were suddenly left to deal with everything they're going through. And I think it's just been trying to manage that. I know we've been, say this morning I had another video catch up. We've almost created just this small team now that we've put together to try and run the business and try and support each other on how we get through to the other side. But it's the challenge, I think, for us is for the whole travel industry is if you work for, I don't know, Costa Coffee, someone like that, when you close the doors, you go home and there's nothing you can do until you physically open the doors. With the travel industry, we have to continue to work because all of these customers need support. Every day there's a new change, there's new extensions, the holiday cancellations, there's new terms and conditions.
Yeah.
So just like everybody said, we're now busier, but without actually making any money, which is
no income at all. Of course.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of you have mentioned there about dealing with customers. Obviously, it's crucial in your business that, customer service and the loyalty that you've generated over the years. And of course, I think, Simon, you said you're having some difficult conversations. You're getting some angry customers, quite rightly. They've lost their holidays and they've got money tied up, and many of them have got financial problems as well. So they probably want that money back. So tell me how you're dealing with this whole issue of your customers wanting refunds, and how are you managing to rebook them? Are you managing to use this refund credit notes? Where are you all at with that, and how much of a challenge has it been? We'll start with you, Simon, and we'll go round.
Tailor-made are very much community-based stores, and the whole business is based around long-term relationships with clients and keeping them completely informed. So we've had to have very honest conversations with our clients. The majority, I would say around about 70%, have been sympathetic to the situation, and we've been able to rebook them or give them credit refund notes. The cruise side of the business has been very interesting, and I'm quite pleased with the reactions of most of the cruise lines in offering 125% credit, because that's an incentive for people to not worry so much about those funds. But it's time, isn't it? And how much we're going to be cancelling. We're all looking at what we've done in March, April. We know that up to the middle of June we'll be cancelling. I've got great confidence that we'll be cancelling the majority of July's bookings as well. So I think cash is king, as we all know, and every operator, every airline, every agent needs to hold on to as much cash as they can for as long as they can. So difficult conversations, but honest conversations, and trying to save every sale.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. So it's very interesting that you say that you're confident you'll be cancelling all of July as well, because you've got EasyJet and Jet2. And I know they've put a bit, it's a statement of intent rather than anything definite, because no one can be at the moment, but they're very much looking at the middle of June, saying they're going to be flying again. Do you not agree with that?
I agree that potentially, possibly they will be flying, but whether or not there are destinations that are ready to receive clients is an entirely different question. If you take Spain, if you take Italy, for example, these countries are going to take time to recover, and that's not going to happen in the next 5-6 weeks, is it?
Oh, fair enough. Okay, Steve, tell us about your experience with your customers and all your home workers having to deal with this huge number of cancellations.
Yeah, I think similar to Simon, we've seen similar sort of rebooking rates. The beauty of our business is it's all built on relationships. So we do have strong relationships with customers as well. We very quickly moved to make sure everyone was communicating positively with customers. Even if there was nothing to say, communication was key, because the goalposts move every single day, if not multiple times per day sometimes. So we kept in contact, kept reassuring people, kept information flowing. So we do videos, we do emails, we do as much as possible to keep people in the loop so that they feel informed. And that's helped, I think, with strong rebooking rates, strong take up of the credit notes as well, because we've seen an overwhelming support for the travel industry. This isn't like 9/11 when the consumer didn't want to travel. Consumers want to travel, they just can't travel. So in that respect, it's good. And I'm sure everyone else has seen the sort of overwhelming support for the industry where everyone wants to help us. So when you explain the importance of trying to look after the industry and keep the bookings live, they're actually really supportive. It's only when they're sort of key workers, NHS staff, or they can't plan their holidays, they're really looking for the refund. So that's been good. And I think also the uncertainty of refunds as well has sort of steered people towards credit notes for the moment.
And have you been confident to give those credit notes? I mean, Simon, you said you've given out a few, and Steve, you're saying you're giving them out, because obviously some agents are saying, because it's not actually, we've not had any change to the package travel regulations, they just don't know if they feel 100% confident saying that this credit refund really will guarantee their money and it will be protected.
I think that we're really confident in not having a definitive answer. So we're really honest with everyone and explain the situation at the moment. So putting people in a little bit of a holding pattern in some cases, depends on the supplier. So someone like Jet2, very clear. So that one's very simple to do, but other suppliers where we need to be a little bit vague is not a good word to use, but you do need to sit on the fence until there's some clarity in some way. So we're trying to keep the customers involved and active and informed, and they're very supportive of it at the moment.
Paul, I'll come to you in a second, but Simon, you were just going to jump in there about the confidence you have in giving out these refund credit notes.
I think we've just got to remember that we're travel agents, and the answer is we're agents. We have to just relay the information that we're given by our suppliers. Whether it's legal, whether it's true is another question, but my instruction to the teams is relay the policy of each individual operator to the clients and smile and wave. It's all we can do.
Okay, that's interesting. And obviously, I guess there's a real variation in the policies from the operators. Mm-hmm. So your teams have to be very clued up and very knowledgeable on who's offering what.
Sure.
What's your experience been?
Yeah, the variation's the issue. I think cruise lines, as Simon said, is good at the moment. There's lots of availability for next year and even into 2022. So people are happy to take future cruise credits, especially when there's additional money available to them to pass that on. Package holidays, TUI, Jet2s, pretty easy to move people onto the next ones as well. I think nobody really wants to lose their holidays. They still want it. They just want reassurance of when it wants to go. The two issues that we seem to be coming up at the moment is is one, if it's very much a tailor-made package, maybe through an operator such as Travel 2, Gold Medal, if only, people like this, where obviously at the moment the credit notes might have to be used with the same airline or to the same destination, and ultimately customers might have been going for a wedding or they might have been going for a specific reason, and it's hard to sort of get that clarity across to them that that this is what's on offer at the moment. It might not be longer term, and I'm trying to, as much as I'm trying not to, again, you do have to be a little bit vague, but I am trying to give out some personal opinions, whereas, look, I do believe that you may have to accept this now, but in the longer term version, my own opinion is that cash refunds will be available at some point. It just won't be within the 14 days. You're
confident that ABTA's lobbying of the government to get that change in the package travel regulations will come good? Do you think that will happen?
100%. So I think it has to. I think it has to be changed from the current 14 days, because that will have severe consequences for everybody. But I don't think it would just be you have to accept a credit note or nothing else, because if people can't use that credit note, it will have it suddenly won't be financially protected. But I think we have to get to a stage where money's coming back into the industry before some of those refunds have to go back through the other way. The other issue that we're seeing at the moment is those customers which have got balances due currently right now, being able to confidently pay what in some cases is thousands, if not tens of £1,000s worth of balances, when they don't know when travel's going to resume, and also whether they'd be able to get a cash refund or whether it would be a credit note. We are starting to see quite a few cancellations at balance payment stage. It's been, over the last few days, there's been quite a few operators that have come out with shorter balance due dates, which has been helping. And that's been something that, if we can get some flexibility for, as Simon was saying, I'm not sure if people will be travelling in June and July. And at the moment, if customers are paying significant amounts of money for July holidays, not knowing if they'll get it, but they also don't know whether they'll be able to get a refund or whether they'll have to get a credit, that's a difficult thing to talk to customers about at the moment.
Sure, I'm sure. So you mentioned there that getting some more flexibility would be useful. So that's a sort of a call to operators. Is there anything else that you would ask of your suppliers? Is there anything that would really help you through this particular phase that we're in within this challenge? Start with you, Simon. Any message to operators?
I would say as much automation as is possible. TUI have been quite useful with their online form that you can fill in to get something changed or amended. The more companies that give us communications methods that don't involve 4-hour queues, the better. We're all working on 15-20% of our workforce, so time is very, very precious. So as much automation on communication as is possible.
That's a good point, absolutely. And one of the things we've heard from some agents, and I think they're understanding of it, but of course many suppliers have had to furlough teams as well. But we ran a story this morning because we've got lots of agents saying exactly that, Simon. It's taking them so much longer to reach, these are great suppliers who normally are really responsive, and they've got teams on the road that really will help you out. But of course, a lot of those teams have been put into temporary furlough, and so that's becoming an issue, that you can't get hold of the right person. And I think that's frustrating for agents, although they understand it. But is there a way around? Are you experiencing that? Any of your members experiencing that, Steve?
Yeah, I think we are. I'm sure everybody is. We've got a couple of operators who've put emergency escalation teams in place for us, because we've got high volumes of business with them. So we have daily calls at set times so that we can just hit them with, these are the urgent issues we're dealing with, rather than try and sit in queue. So that's worked really well. If we could get more operators to do that on a sort of scheduled time basis, even if twice a week or something, that would be enormously helpful. Or a directory of people we can talk to, knowing who's furloughed, who's not, would be also useful.
Okay, well, hopefully they are watching this, or they will be watching this, and they might be able to respond to those requests. Just to move on a little bit, I mean, obviously you're all agents that are members of consortia. So I think we've got 3 represented here. Simon, the majority of your business is under TCNG. Steve, you're with Hayes IG, and Paul, you're with Advantage. I just wondered if you had any comment about the support that you've received from the consortia that you belong to. Start with you, Paul. Can you hear me, Paul?
Sorry. Advantage have been excellent, to be honest. they've been doing daily video updates with could be on operator communications, could be industry updates. They've been doing actually some really useful things, which I shared with my team. They were all on it yesterday, was well-being at home. So again, a lot of my team have never worked from home before. I'm currently working out of my garage because I've got a wife that's working from home, kids at home. So this is my kind of, my seclusion.
The weather's all right, or have you got heating in there?
I've got heating in here as well. It's a bit of a man cave. It used to be, and now it's suddenly my office. But
behind you, so if it gets that bad, you can,
exactly. I can have a bit of a game of darts. But trying to for people that are normally working in small teams, having regular people to come together. That mental health well-being when it can be a bit overwhelming when all you're dealing with most days is customer queries, customer amendments, trying to get on top of that. So Advantage have been doing some good bits around that. They've been helping me and the team with escalation as well. So where maybe our account managers have been furloughed, they've been able to take on some of the challenge we've got and pass that through. And they say that their daily video updates, which they do about 5 o'clock, which again is really useful because it tends to be when you're thinking about, okay, let's try and wind myself down now, and actually then you can get a bit of an update from what else has happened through the day. That then doesn't mean that you have to go through all of the operator updates yourselves.
Okay, so I'm sure that's very helpful, and particularly that stuff around mental health and well-being, but it's very valuable. What about you guys? Steve, what's been the response of Hayes?
Hayes has been brilliant. We are in sort of multiple times per day. We're in contact with various team members. So, we're a very self-sufficient organisation anyway, but we're talking to John and Irene all the time, talking about future planning. We have the Hayes internal systems, which are brilliant for just keeping in contact. So there's a lot of automation there. And then we pass a huge amount of information down to our teams throughout the day. We have daily video updates. We do webinars frequently throughout the day. So there's a lot of up and down communication. So we've been working with Hayes to try and develop better systems, to try and speed along the process of all these changes. So so I think it's a lot of two-way communication as opposed to just information coming down from Hayes.
Yeah, so you've been feeding back to them and getting what you need. Okay, great. And Simon from TTNG?
Travel Network Group have been absolutely fantastic. They're keeping us updated on supplier policies. So we've got a shared worksheet where we know what every supplier's policy is in terms of cancellations, dates and policies. That's in real time available to all the team. They've been exemplary at processes as well, like the furloughing of staff, making sure we get that right from a legal perspective, and giving us continual information on lobbying that's happening and inside trade stuff. I can't thank Travel Network Group enough on how good they've been.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, well, look, we're coming up to half an hour, but I did want to just ask you, obviously we talked a little bit about how people, if they've booked a holiday, they don't want to lose that holiday, they would like to go on it. And great that you were saying 70% similar numbers that have rebooked. But what about new business and your optimism, I guess, for, particularly with those of you who are just sell a lot of cruise, finding new to cruise customers, how worried are you about the future of travel and your future business? And, yes, you've managed to rebook the people who've got their holidays there already, but what's the future business looking like? Shall I start with you, Paul?
I think we've got to hope that there's going to be a bounce back. When that's going to be, I don't know. I don't think while we're in current lockdown sort of as a country, we are still seeing some new business. It tends to be cruise, to be honest. It tends to be for the 2021 departures. We were seeing a good few bookings come through last week and a few already this week. We're focusing on that still with a little bit of marketing, not massively, but I'm sort of doing video updates on e-blasts to customers every week, and as part of that we focus on a particular product and talking about customers that might be interested in booking it. We're still doing a few mail shots at the moment, so as much as we can't do it from head office because it's closed, the staff have taken their own envelopes, their own stamps back themselves. They've got access to printers, so we're trying to get in contact across each branch about 20 customers a week just to try and instigate some new business where we can. but the numbers are incredibly low. It's probably we're doing about 10 to 15% of new business that we would expect to be doing. But speaking to other agencies and Advantage, that actually seems to be quite a high number from other people. So that's what we're working on currently. And then towards the end of this month, we're going to be working on a bounce back marketing plan. Whether that launches in May or whether it launches in June will depend what sort of country happens and how the industry goes.
You'll be ready. I mean,
we'll be ready, yeah.
I mean, Paul, I remember doing an interview with you fairly recently. You were saying that the majority of your client base is over 60.
Yeah.
So does that, do you think, I mean, I don't know about that age group, that demographic, would they be more worried about health concerns in the future? Or do you think they're just going to be fed up of being locked in and they'll be keen to travel?
I think that we'll be keen to travel. I think it may take a little while for them to sort of get the confidence back. And I think the cruise industry will have a lot to play in that to make sure that their advice is right and how they're going to sort of restart it and get things back up and running. But also, I do think there'll be an element where after however many weeks, whether it's 12 weeks, whether it's longer, of being in isolation, I think they will be really keen to get out. I think also people will appreciate their holidays just a little bit more because we've suddenly missed out on that kind of opportunity. And I don't think it will stop people. It might just change trends to begin with, and it will take a little bit of, I suppose, manipulation from the trade to make sure that people are confident to get out there and start resuming travel again.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Let's hope so. Steve, what about you? Are you similar to Paul? Are you still engaging with customers and doing a little bit of marketing? And have you had any 2021 bookings?
Yeah, we've had a surprising, just like Paul, actually, a surprising number of bookings. Bookings are coming in daily, which is great, far more than we ever expected. So that's good. I mean, it's a lot less than
Is that because there are great deals out there? Do you think people are going, well, I'll book now because the suppliers are putting some really attractive deals in the market, or what's driving it?
I think that definitely helps. And I mean, that's part of the message that we've been sort of saying. We've not been overtly sort of saying book a holiday because I think that would be wrong at the moment. But at the same time, we're trying to support the industry and saying to customers, there are some amazing deals. So if you're ready to book, now's a great time to book. Most of them are for either late this year or 2021 because there are great deals and the consumers seem to have confidence for 2021. So that's great. And we're seeing some sizable bookings as well. I mean, there was one yesterday for about 65,000, which is, shocked us all when it came in. So
I think you'd all like that, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. So that's fantastic. But I think we've all got to be mindful of the fact the industry is going to, it's going to come back. It's the world's biggest industry. It's got to come back, but it is going to be different. It's not just going to suddenly, come back to normal. There's going to be a slow phased back in to whatever, when we come out of this. It's just, like I say, it's not going to just be the tap turned back on. So trying to match the marketing around that. Like Simon said, not every destination is going to be open for business straight away. So trying to second guess what that's going to look like. Is there going to be,
when you say second guessing on that, sorry to interrupt, Steve, but someone was saying to us they were thinking domestic would be quite popular, domestic travel first of all, and then possibly short haul, but way before long haul comes back. Is that your view, or what are your second guesses?
I think definitely domestic. I mean, we've seen great domestic sales this year anyway. That's a growing market, I would say. But then I wouldn't even necessarily say it's going to be short haul because Italy, Spain, they've got some of the biggest challenges, whereas longer haul destinations don't seem to have the same problems. So I think we've got to watch and learn and be ready to react, which is challenging because most of the teams are all on furlough, so you don't have the teams ready to have it all in place. But just trying to second guess is and work together as an industry to try and work out what we need to be doing and come together to plan and help each other on this.
Okay, you're nodding, Simon. Have you of the same view, and have you got plans in place ready to action as soon as you can, like Paul does?
Yeah, as Steve said, I think there's a degree of resilience in the luxury long haul sector, and this is because these are people with large disposable incomes and savings that they can afford to invest into future travel. I don't think we're going to see huge volumes of mass market stuff until the media is reporting volumes of mass market stuff. Bit of a catch-22, but we need to see people on the beaches of Benidorm, for example, before we're going to, in our masses, start rebooking. People will be cautious, and I think each individual tourist office is going to have a duty to report the state of affairs in each country, and our media and as a trade, we'll have to start pointing out to the public where we can go, what's safe and what's not ready yet.
And what about airports and cruise ships and aircraft and airlines and stuff? Do you think that they're going to need to change some of their policies in order?
Yeah, I think there's a huge technology piece that can be covered by cruise lines, in much the same way as the airline industry bragged about its air filtration systems and purity. I think cruise lines will definitely have to brag about the technology that they're bringing on board to protect people. I think that this is going to be the biggest hurdle for us, is persuading people who have seen the news articles of 20 passengers dying after being on a cruise ship, that they can get back on a cruise ship with confidence. And I think that's going to be achieved through monitoring of passenger temperatures. That's all technology. And I think that the cruise lines that come out with the right measures and to be seen to be coming out with the right measures will be the winners.
Okay, that's very interesting. All right. Just finally then, guys, before we go, and obviously we've got some agents. I mean, I've had agents calling me, really, really emotional. They're very worried about their businesses, their livelihoods and all the rest of it. I think they're sort of all right now, but they're very worried that if it goes on for too long, it could be real problem. And we've had, estimations from some of the big trade bodies saying that, even ABTA saying people will not survive if changes aren't made. I mean, without asking you your finances, but how worried or how confident are you for the next couple of months? I mean, presumably you're all right. You're taking all the steps at the moment, but how long can you go on for if this situation doesn't change?
As a firm, we've made the assumption there's going to be no significant revenues this year, and are making preparations to make sure that we're ready for January peaks rather than counting on any revenue through the summer and autumn. So we've made plans around that basis. They're not the most wonderful profits. Well, there's no profits, but I'm confident that we'll still be here when this all turns over.
Okay, brilliant. That's great news. Steve?
Yeah, same position really. We've very quickly took a viewpoint that this is going to go on for a long time, and even when we come out of this, it's going to take a long time for incomes to come back to where they were. So we, as a company, we're solid, so we can last as long as we need to. What we are more mindful of, I guess, is the fact that we've got 400 plus home workers who
are self-employed effectively.
Exactly. So what we're doing is trying to make sure there's support for them in place. So we've actively gone out to help them secure extra incomes during this time. So lots of work done there to keep them involved, keep them trained, keep them active, and try and keep an income coming in so that we still have people to sell holidays.
That's interesting. So you're helping them get other incomes in different sectors and things, are you? So that they can, whether it might be shop, supermarkets or anything that they could do now. Because otherwise you think that, well, if they've got no income in, I guess they might not be around as travel agents otherwise.
Well, yeah, because they don't necessarily conform to the requirements to get all the government funding. So, I mean, we've done a big piece to help them secure funding and whatever options are available to them. And if that doesn't work, then here's other options to generate income. And we've been very proactive with doing that.
And do you think that's enough to ensure that you'll still have 400 travel agent members, by the end of this year? Do you think that?
Yeah, and I think that number will continue to grow. So we're very confident on that, but we do a huge amount to keep them engaged and motivated in tough times. So I think the money is really, really important, but keeping them within travel is really important and motivated to be here at the end as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant to hear, Steve. Well done. And Paul, your guys, obviously a lot of them have worked with you for a long, long time. You've got some real longevity in your workforce, haven't you? So how are they all doing? And are you confident that they'll still all be with you and you'll be okay?
Yeah, we're communication's the key. We're trying to talk to everybody all the way through the furlough process, why we're doing it, what we're doing. At the moment, we're trying not to look too far into the future, so we put cash flow projections together up until the end of July, working towards that. Doesn't mean that we've got issues after that, but it's just this is what we can get to here, and then we can review as we're going through on what we're doing. Obviously, we're part of the Fred Olsen family, so it's a bigger organisation, and we're talking to the other members of the group on what they're doing, and trying to, I suppose, align our businesses in the same way, HR related. But we've been expanding our business for quite a few years now, and we hope that's not going to change. And we also feel that hopefully once we come out the other side of this, there might be some more opportunities that we can take on, either because we're GSAs for quite a few companies, so that's always a possibility when we come out of here, and also other retail opportunities that might pop up that weren't here before once we get through the other side. But at the moment, all our plans are around is just making sure that we do enough to make sure that we come through it, that we do as much to get any income that is coming around there, support the staff, and make sure that we utilise any of the government schemes that we can to make sure that we get the costs as low as possible.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, listen, it's fantastic to realism from you all, and you're obviously just absolutely right in the thick of it and doing it everything you can for either your staff, your business, or your agents in your group, which is amazing to hear, but also good to hear just that little bit of optimism as well. So I'm really grateful for your time this morning, guys. We wish you the very, very best, to you and all your teams who I know are working so hard. Real credit to the industry, and not just the ones that are there, the ones that are furloughed, as you said, Paul, that are feeling guilty that they're not there, but I know they're with you all in spirit. So thank you very, very much for your time. And as I say, we wish you the best of luck.